Hello and welcome to Qsports. I'm Udu Gajaga and thank you very much for joining us. It's 16 years ago when the Gambia last won the African Under-17 Championship. That was back in Algeria, where the likes of Omar Colley was part of that team. 16 years later, they are into another competition, the CAF Under-17 African Championship. They lost their first game to Senegal. It's almost becoming very usual for us to lose to Senegal. In fact, in all categories of football, from the senior national team to the under-20 and now to the under-17. In fact, for the under-17, from the WAFU, we lost to them. From the cup competition, we lost to them. And this time around, it is the African Under-17 Championship, the opener. We'll be looking at that exclusively, although the Gambia won by 5-1 against Somalia yesterday in their second group game. We'll be looking at that game as well. But again, the FIFA rankings, the Gambia has dropped one place from 125th to 126th in the world rankings. That is due to the national team not doing well, not winning matches. The last time we just collected a point against Kenya and then we lost to Cote d'Ivoire, plus other losses that we accumulated in recent periods, and this is going to affect us. We'll also be looking at one Gambian player that we've looked at his story, Nuha Sonko Sanbat. He's the defender of the national team, but he decided to call it quit as far as the Scorpions is concerned, unless certain things improve. I have with me in the studio Lamin Jara, journalist, freelance. We'll be talking about that exclusively and also other stories. But first, let's look at the under-17 of the Gambia's game yesterday when they played against Somalia and won by 5-1. The match report. Aliou Drame netted a hat-trick to lead the Gambia under-17 to a dominant 5-1 victory over Somalia. This win gives the young Scorpions a chance to secure a semi-final spot and a place in the Under-17 World Cup in Qatar, provided they triumph in their final group game against Tunisia on Monday. The Gambia had previously lost 1-0 to neighboring Senegal in their group opener. Meanwhile, the young Teranga Lions are set to face Tunisia later, with both teams having won their opening matches. The Gambia's final group match against Tunisia on Monday is expected to be a highly anticipated clash, with Gambian fans eagerly hoping for a positive outcome.
That's the first game because I think we didn't deserve to lose because we had a very good match and we took it very positive and we went into this game very positive because we want to proceed to the next round.
You cannot expect everything to be on your way, so you understand me. We concede that goal, but we are not happy for that. But we are happy for the win because we won 5-1. So that's very great for us. It's a good result for us. So our last game is there, so we have to go and win that one also, so that we can qualify to this quarterfinal and go to the World Cup also, because that's our plan also here.
To do anything we like in the field, yes, if we are not fearless.
Because right now I'm contending back, we lost our first game 1-0. So that trend lang I push correct. I'm not motivated. Only I'm a winner against Somalia. So now I push win the 5-1.
That's the Gambia under-17 players enjoying themselves there after winning against Somalia by 5-1 yesterday in their second group match in the African Under-17 Championship, currently on the way in Morocco. Now, the final group game will be against Tunisia. That will be a tough one because if you watch the Tunisian team against Senegal, Senegal dominated throughout the game, but you could see some tenacity, some intensity in their team, and also an eye for goal in their opener. They won against Somalia, of course, by 3-0. So that would be a tough one. We're looking forward to that. Journalist freelancer Fode Mani is currently in Morocco, and we spoke to him yesterday immediately after the Gambia's game about his thoughts, how the competition is going, and from a journalist perspective, how he sees the Gambia's team and the chances of game going through. Let's listen to Fode Mani.
It is quite fascinating here. Very, very nice. A country that is very beautiful. Very close to Europe, to some. And yeah, we're enjoying it here and much more where we are. It is playing across the country, but in El Jadadi, some hours away from Casablanca, and I think 2-3 hours away from the capital Rabat. The city is a nice place, coastal area. It's really much breeze here, and everybody, much more those from the Gambia, always saying it's cool. So yeah, so far it has been a nice experience here, and everybody's loving it, from the players, from the delegates, to the coaches, to even us, the journalists that are following up the game, covering. We really much enjoying it here. Nice people, and yeah, it has been interesting since we arrived.
Okay, let's talk about the first game that the Gambia rubbed shoulders with the defending champions, Senegal, at under 17. Now they've beaten us in all categories of football, from the senior level to the U20 to the under 17. And again, despite a narrow defeat to them, but it's still a victory for Senegal again. The dominance still continues.
Yeah, of course, in that game, even we could have even said, okay, we should have even won the game in the second half. But yeah, Senegal's dominance on us continues for many reasons. We cannot just say, okay, on the pitch alone, because football is way beyond that. And if you check the Senegalese team, you could realize it has been formed by a few academies that are really much investing in football in Senegal. And if those type of players come together to play against a country like the Gambia, where football is not much given that investment, of course, something different would happen, and we will not end up liking it. But yeah, they've been dominating us in terms of results. But if you looked at the games, you could see, okay, in terms of performance, the Gambia also have been pulling the string on them. But it is not enough. We have to look at a lot of factors to make sure that maybe a day comes soon that we will be able to also come out victorious against Senegal. But like I said, a lot of reasons are there for us to get that over them. But we have to give them their flowers for what they have done in football so far. They are on it, and they're on the right track. Winning the AFCON, even the senior AFCON for the first time for them, tells you how much they put into football. And now going out again, winning there on the 20, winning the on the 17 AFCON, they're in this tournament as the champions, defending champions. Honestly, we cannot stand them in terms of that. But you could see that the Gambia also have that talent. We have the potential to also make it like the way Senegal is doing. The performance against them in the first game was good. For me, in this first half, everybody was not very much happy, was not pleased with how the boys played. But when they came back in the second half with a view, to change a little bit of the tactics by bringing in fresh legs immediately, they were able to change the game, and they forced the Senegalese to defend. And yeah, even though it ended 1-0 in their favor, but it was a good performance from our boys. But for us to change the narrative of Senegal dominating on us, in terms of results, I think a lot needs to be done, not just on the pitch, but even off the pitch.
Well, let's look at the results is gone against Senegal before we come to today's game. But that defeat signifies a lot. You've talked about not only on the pitch, but off the pitch in terms of player development. You've talked about the Senegalese style of football in terms of development, the academies, massive investment to develop their football. At least 6 or 7 of those players are from the Generation 4, the Jambar Academy combined together. They constitute maybe 9, 10 players in the entire squad of the Senegal under 17 team. That's a lot of investment. When you look at our team, it's a combination of academy players, school football players, well, some players who are both in foreign land. You talk about the goalkeeper from Norway, and then you talk about the captain, Aliou Dramé from the La Masia Academy in Barcelona, and also some other players. So it's a completely different setup. If you look at our team's performance, like you've described it, the first half wasn't good enough. The second half, much better. Could it be down to the selection of the team? Because I understand the people who've been following this under 17, their training and all of that, they feel like the first half, some of the players who have been outstanding during training and all of that, at least 3 of them have been on the bench. Could that have been a factor of not playing well in the first half?
Yeah, coming to the performance of the boys and what really much impacted it, I think, the coach after the this game, I think was it yesterday, we had an interview with him, and then he was asked this question, leaving 3 of his key players on the bench, like Baba Lee, who was very, very important and very, very key today again, and Jun Bukanyi, and also the goalkeeper Mbemba Jamme. He asserted that he doesn't have, a key player. All the players are important to him. He plays players based on the tactics and based on the approach that is demanded by the games. So we have seen what they did in the game against Senegal when they came in the second half. Much more for Baba Lee. He was very, very instrumental, very exploitive in front of goal, and he was creating chances as well. So today he started, and we could see in the first 4 minutes he won a penalty, and it was converted by Aliou Dramé. And I think even Aliou got his redeem, because in the last game he was emotional when he was substituted out, because yesterday we asked the coach why. He said he wanted to do more. He felt like he should have done more, but then he could not, and then he felt disappointed with himself, and he was crying because of that pressure on him. But today you could see when he had Baba Lee in front with him, the combination, the way they were playing, the connections, you could tell. And Baba Lee was able to win a penalty in the first 4 minutes, and Aliou converted it. Within the first 15 minutes again, Aliou scored the second goal. And that was also from Baba Lee's effort, because he created the chance from the other end, and then, before the pitch was changed to Aliou's end, and Aliou was able to score. So players like Baba Lee, Jundu Kanyi, even though today again he started from the bench, but when he came in the second half, he was able to calm the tempo of the game, because the Somali team were trying to push again to see whether they could even get a second goal. But when Jundu came, he was very, very calm in the middle of the pitch. And Bemba, who luckily got a start today, because Sebastian Haruna Drame, got injured during warm-up, and he was replaced by Bemba, who was the goalkeeper for the team during Wafu, came in, and he was outstanding. He made some good saves, and they ended up winning. So we cannot still, refute the argument of the coach to say he doesn't have a key player. As far as development is concerned, every player for him is important. But from the games, we could also tell which player can give him the result that we all wanted to see. And of course, Baba Lee and Memba Drame are one of those players that really, always step up when it is required.
But for I know already you've delved into today's game. I'm talking about some of the substitutions who came in and made the difference, and the players who came into the game, like Baba Lee. Was it a case of Gambia playing against a very weak opposition in Somalia, or is it just because the team today really played very well?
Well, I don't know. For the Somali team, I'm not sure really they are a very weak team, because if you looked at if you watch their game against Tunisia, even though they lost 3-0 in that game too, but they are very, very disciplined tactically. I like the way they were playing. So going into this game, some kind of a distraction came from their camp, that a few of their players reportedly absconded within Morocco, which their coach today, denied and said it is not true. But I think that kind of a distraction also they went with into today's game. But I'm not sure they are a victim. And obviously, Babali is a player for me. I think in any type of game he can always give you what you need. So I'm not sure the changes is any way connected to because Somali being a weak side, they're a team that is very strong. You could see even in the second half the tempo that they came with, they were able to score in the early minutes. I think 48 minutes of the game, they scored a goal. So they are trying to push again, and they had some good chances, and some very very good chances. Even in the first half, they had some good chances that could have been goals, but they could not take them. So I'm not sure they are a weak side. I think some few factors led to today's heavy defeat for them, but these boys also that we are also talking about here can make it in any game. And let's see against Tunisia, which is a strong side, and I think that will be a game for us to have a reality test about these boys. The likes of Babali, the likes of Njindu Kanyi, and the most outstanding one for me today, the centre back, Yusuf Aketa. He has been very very good, and I think Tunisia's game will tell much about their performance and readiness for this tournament going forward.
Earlier on, just I would say about an hour ago or an hour and a half ago, Senegal drew with Tunisia. Where does that leave us? Is it a case of winning against Tunisia at all cost and then making it through as part of the two automatic teams that makes it to the semi-final? Or do we still even have a chance, even a draw in that game, maybe possibly finishing third in the group? There will be some playoffs.
I think we must go out, for a win. It is a must that we need to win against Tunisia because they won their first game 3-0, and today they drew 0-0 against Senegal. Senegal won us 1-0, and Senegal drew against them today, 0-0. So that is 4 points for Senegal and Tunisia. Tunisia now having 3 goals still. Senegal also having 1 goal. We are having, I think 3 goals as well. Three goals and 3 points. So we are having the same goals with Tunisia, but they're ahead of us with a point. So I think we need to go all out to win against them, which will be very, 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 very good for us. So a draw might not be very good for us. I think we will finish third if we drew. So going out to win against Tunisia is what we need. But for me, I have no doubt we can do it for how we played against Senegal, and today the way Senegal dominated the game against Tunisia from start to end. They could not just also capitalize on their chances, but they really much played the Tunisian side. But also you need to respect the Tunisian side for their discipline, much more defensively. They were very, very good today in keeping the Senegalese team in the game. I think it was a plan for them as well to keep a draw in that game today against Senegal. And then they think of going against the Gambia all out to win and then seal their place in the quarterfinal. So I know it's not going to be an easy game, but I think we can do it against Tunisia with the performance that we did against Senegal, and Senegal playing against Tunisia today all out. And we have seen how impressive they were. So I think we can also do the same thing against Tunisia. And if we do, we need to take our chances, score them, and then we will be in the quarterfinal. Eventually, make it to the World Cup.
Yes, well, I know this competition is about the development of players, giving them an opportunity to showcase their talent. So, yes, there are scouts there who will be looking for some of these players, even though some are young as 14, some up to 16. They're minors, even if they're going to sign contracts. The contract would be signed on behalf of them by maybe a parent or agent or somebody. But despite that, winning would be hugely important against Tunisia. A World Cup qualification spot maybe is something that is going to be very important for the Gambia. Yes, getting into the semi-final, reaching the latter stages of the competition, maybe in the final, maybe even eventually winning it, it would be a big dream since we last won it in 2009. But getting to the World Cup qualification, how important is that to get a World Cup spot in Qatar for the Under-17 World Cup?
That would be massive. That would be an exposure for our boys, and it will be an exposure for Gambia even, because we're talking about the early development stage of football, that is the Under-17. And like I did a tournament preview, I think the coach plan is not even thinking about getting to semi-final or final. Right now, their plan is how they can book a place to Qatar, or they book a ticket to Qatar, which is the primary target for them. So I think which is very, very important. It's going to be great if they can make it there, because that is going to enhance our participation in the coming tournament, because we know now the FIFA is going to organize the World Cup every year. That is Under-17. CAF will be organizing the African Cup of Nations every year, and of course at the zone level also, WAFU also will be organizing the qualifiers now every year. So if we are in the World Cup, it's going to prepare us better to expose us to that level, and also who knows, other opportunities could come along the way in terms of talent development, in terms of even top scouts paying attention to what Gambia can offer, top clubs, paying so much attention. We have seen when the image of our Under-20 went bigger and bigger, all of a sudden we have seen all of those, that batch of Under-20 players signed pro contract outside. So this is another opportunity. Already, even here, it's happening. We're seeing scouts everywhere, and they're really much paying attention to these players. But it would be big and bigger if they can make it to Qatar. And if that happens, it's going to place our football to another level. So much of attention, the exposure for the boys, and the potential, contract signing by all of them, or possibly, like the Under-20 had, 2-3 years ago. So I think, this is going to be great if we can make it to the World Cup. And I'm sure we can, if we are able to, seal something against Tunisia.
That was journalist Fode Mane, freelancer, currently in Morocco to cover the Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations, in which the Gambia is taking part. Lamin Jara, freelance journalist, joins me in the studio. Jara, you've watched the Gambia's first game, the second game. What's your assessment of the team so far as compared to our neighbor Senegal?
Well, of course, we've watched them in the first game against Senegal, the defending champions, and they lost it by 1-0 in a game in which they gave it all, and unfortunately they came out with nothing. Because they were expected to win. But again, when you play against Senegal, knowing that they are our hoodoo, and we always find it very difficult to get something when it comes to playing them in all categories. They beat us in the final last time out. They beat us in the opener. And this time again, they beat us again. So it's a case of Senegal knowing how to beat us. But again, you look at the approach against Senegal, the team was more of, you do not blame them, especially in situations like this. It's the first game. Most of them have never been in a position like that before. The legs are heavy, the minds are what about if this and that happens. So you do not blame them. And when we conceded the goal in the 7th minute, from then on, I think at halftime, the team talk was positive, because when they came in, you could see more adventures. You could see, the intention of the boys was to go and get themselves back on level terms. And chances were created. They pushed forward and put Senegal on the ropes. It was just that it's Senegal are always Senegal when it comes to Gambia. And had we converted all our chances on that day, we could have turned it in the second half, at least win it by 2-1, or even at least salvage a point. But again, that did not happen. And when it happened, Aliou Dramé, it was a player that everybody, was hoping on, and he put that responsibility on himself. It's always difficult, as young as he is, when a nation puts its, responsibilities on young shoulders. It's always difficult. And in the first game, you could see when he was substituted, he couldn't help himself. He had no choice but to burst into tears. And from then on, I think, one good thing is that rejuvenated him, that motivated him. Because, when the stakes are high, and you feel that you did not deliver up to expectation, I think the right thing is to go back, look at yourself, look at the mirror and say, look, I think I need to go one step further. I think I can do this better. And yesterday was a case of, not playing against Somalia, but it was a case of, reacting to the 1-0 defeat against Senegal, and resoundingly they did.
If you look at the way we played, our footballers well drilled, where do you rate grassroots football development as compared to other countries seeing our first and second game?
I think we have a lot of things to do, and we have a lot of things to put in place. And looking at us, I'm not sure we are very, very far away, but again, we are at least 2 or 3 steps, away from where we should be and where we want to be as a nation, especially when it comes to grassroots. Because you look at Senegal, we Fode has just talked about it, and you have asked that question. You look at the Senegalese team, on possession and their style of football, the awareness, the readiness for one player to do the next thing to the next level for the other team, for the other player. You begin to understand that. I think, at the grassroots level, they've done a lot of things. They've invested in their academies. They've groomed them. They've kept them young, and that has helped them over the years. They've dominated in the under-17. They won it, and anytime they come in, they are not a small team. They are always competitors. They are always in or around there. So you look at our first game. You could understand that, okay, this is a group of players that are very young, and they're not used to playing together for a long time. That collegiality was there, but the chemistry and of course trying to play as if they have been together for a long time, you could see that was missing. And again, you look at it, the bunch of our players are school-going kids. Some played now in Brikama last time out, and except for few of them, the goalkeeper, the captain, and some few, very good players. But I think looking at our grassroots, definitely there is we need to do a lot in order for us to catch up, because for a long time now we have not won the under-17. But again, forget about all that. It's about trying to get the right players, give them the right environment, of course, catch them young like other countries do, invest in our academies, and then we'll be there in the near future.
Is under-17 about winning, or is it about giving players a platform to express themselves, and potentially this could connect them to develop their football in the future, maybe being scouted by top scouts for top teams?
Yeah, anyway, as a nation, looking at what we have, looking at the project and the trajectory, we know if we win, this is good. Everybody wants to win. It's sweet. And you talked about it during your intro, that we have not won it for 16 years. So I think that's going to put a question mark on how far have we gone. When you win, it is good. But again, at this level, I think it would be important. We had the manager talked about it yesterday in one of his conferences, saying, we've put a lot of pressure on the players, and we are so obsessed about winning. But at this level, it's not about winning. It's about giving the players the right platform, expose them, and then prepare them for the challenge that lies ahead. Because we know at least what every nation wants to brag about is having a national team whose cream has been picked from the under-17, from the junior level, and rise through the ranks to the under-20, and they produce and perform to the top levels, and at the end they come when they are almost semi-finished or finished products to deliver for the national team. So, as a country, yes, looking at how far we have gone and what we want to achieve, I think the priority should be winning. It is good, but the priority should be grooming them to that level where they can compete for us at the national level.
Well, if there is one good thing about under-17 football for the Gambia, that long-term project 16 years ago, one of the strong pillars of the Gambia national under-17 team was Omar Colley. He's still in the national team. In fact, now he's the captain of the team.
Yeah, the captain of the team, and of course the oldest player, if you like, or one of the oldest players out there. I think that's a good thing. One thing for sure, whatever happens, if he retires, he can just say, okay, in the national side, I might not win anything, but I have a lot of caps for the Gambia. I have captained the team, but it all started from the under-17. I have been an under-17 winner, sometime in 2009, and I rose through the ranks, and we saw his, how he rose through the ranks, his development towards going up to where he is today. So I think that's top notch. So if ever we want to, there is somebody that we can talk about to say, okay, he rose through the ranks, went to the under-17 and won it, and now he's captaining the team. Surely it should be him.
If we talk about under-17 or cadet football categories in Africa, we will talk about the issue of age. Has something drastically changed because of the MRI? Has something changed because all African football federations are now seeing that, you know what, this is about development. This is not always about winning all the time. With the pictures that we are seeing on television, when they say a particular player is 16, a player is 15, a player is maybe exactly 17, because there are players who are 17 already and they are part of this competition, but this is the only competition they are going to play at under 17 level. Let's say for the next competition, they would be over age. Are we seeing glimpses of at least that good way of getting the right players, the right ages in this competition, as opposed to decades ago? You definitely see a player, yes, you have nothing to prove, because on their passport, it is either they are 15 or 16 or 17, but physically looking at them, you can say this one maybe is 25, this one is 30. But that's your own analogy, your own assumption. Have you been impressed with what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I think one good thing is, of course, the introduction of the MRI to make sure that, of course, when we say under 17, it has to be under 17. And we know the right age is to play at that level. This is what will help in development of football at any level, because most of the time we have been victims, and we have talked about this not once, not twice, and we have been casualties, in fact, because
2014, the ban.
2014, exactly.
Yeah, the global ban.
And
they don't like it, but we will talk about it.
We will talk about it
in the past.
Exactly, it happened, and that kind of it demoralized us, and all hopes were gone and dashed, and I think that was not good for us. That was a huge setback, putting into consideration where we picked it. And again, you looked at the team that won it in 2009, and was it that group of players in 2005 that we branded as under 20 or under 17? You looked at them from there, their career was very short. It took them 2-3 years, and the muscles were no longer there. And the players that they played against, I could remember in that Brazil team that we beat by 3-1, was it? We had the likes of Marcelo and others. They just retired just this morning or yesterday. So that could tell you that putting in the right project and giving the right age what it deserves is going to help you for the long-term plan. And that is what other countries have done. And that is, I think, where we had a setback, and that is where we have not done well. But again, with the coming of the MRI, with the coming of trying to make sure that the right age is given the right opportunity at the right stage, I think that's going to help us a lot. And in fact, it's helping us, because you look at the young players that played yesterday. Most of them, they are going to school, yeah. Some of them, we can attest to it. We have seen them going to school in the classroom, and when they come back, they will go to class, and they are as young as under 17. So that alone is massive for us, and this will help our football, and this will help our kids to grow and be there for as long as we want.
Yes, for the future, this competition, if you reach the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, eventually you will make it to the Under-17 World Cup, which is going to be hosted in Qatar for the very first time, and then subsequently it will be an annual competition. There's a huge opportunity for the Gambia to expose young talented footballers.
Yeah, huge. This is massive for us, and for the fact that it's annual now. This, if the right projects are there, and the idea is executed about trying to I think this should be a school for us, to make sure that at least we are able to groom we catch the grassroots young, groom the young people, give them the chance, bearing in mind that we are targeting the national level. But again, here is a platform. Okay, as a country, maybe we find it difficult to organize something that's going to help us year in, year out to make sure that, of course, the younger generation, the grassroots is in a competition where that is going to be a developmental stage. But for the fact that we cannot do it, and this is coming to be now annual, I think is massive for us. It's about now bearing in mind the right things, the right players, the right time, and the right ages. And what do we want to do? Do we want to go on to be there year in, year out, or do we just want to be there 1 year and the other year we forget about it, or what? But whatever the case, this is massive for us, and I think if we take it seriously, definitely it's going to help us.
Definitely it's going to help us. From there, we will take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the Gambia national team, the Scorpions. Our ranking have dropped from 125 to now 126 in the FIFA recent world rankings. That factor, why did we drop a place, and how this is going to affect us in future qualifiers when it comes to Africa Cup of Nations and World Cup. The lowest ranked teams are drawn against each other to play a playoff before they get into the group format. After that, we'll get into the details.
QMoney is back again with its easy-to-use, secure and convenient mobile app that allows you to carry out all your transactions. No matter where you are or what time it is, you can always access your funds. With the new QMoney app, you can cash in and out, buy credit, buy Q Power, shop, make payments, and so much more. You can also send Q money, pay bills, receive international remittances, and transfer cash to others. Just download the app from your Play Store or App Store and get started. For more information, call customer care on 133. Q Money, Sinu Calpe. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back, and thank you very much for joining us. This is Qsports, and I'm Mumudu Kajiga. Now we're talking about the Gambia's world ranking. According to FIFA, we've dropped a place. That is due to the fact that we've not accumulated much points in international football. The last two games that we played in the World Cup qualifiers was a 3-3 draw against Kenya, which feels like a defeat because Kenya scored their equalizer 36 seconds before the end of the game. Is complete madness. You cannot just imagine how it happened. But that's exactly the case. And the second game against Cote d'Ivoire, we lost to them by 1-0. Second half, especially the last 20 minutes, chances upon chances, but the Gambia just cannot have a player who can kill the game by putting the ball in the back of the net. You can count at least 6 chances, and 3 of them were almost one-on-one situations. How we lost to Cote d'Ivoire, I can't imagine. And because of that reason, you don't have enough points. The countries that you're playing against have gone up places. That's why we dropped a level low. And this is going to affect us in international football as far as the qualifiers for the World Cup is concerned, the qualifiers for the Africa Cup of Nations is concerned. For the last 2 AFCON qualifiers, the Gambia was ranked among the bottom teams in Africa. We had to play a playoff first. And from winning that playoff, then that is the time we got into the group phase of the qualifiers. And even in that group phase of the qualifiers, we are ranked in the bottom seed. So it's better for us to start collecting the points. Jara, you've been following Gambian football at international level, senior level. Tell us about your disappointment in the last 2 games. How did you consume it? I know it's weeks ago, but it's still relevant to talk about because just look at our rankings now.
Yeah, the memory is still green and fresh in our minds, and it was we suffered 2 defeats, if you like, because the 3-3 is more or less a defeat, considering the circumstances and the situation in which we squandered the points. We dropped 2 points, and Kenya to me gained 1 point, because looking at it, they lost it all over, and they came back somehow to level it 3-3 remarkably for them, and so disappointingly for us. I think this has been coming for a long time now. If you have been following our recent performances and results that were coming, especially at the national level, over the past couple of months or so, you look at it, to me, after we have, gone out of the AFCON that we qualified for the 2nd year running, since then it has not been good. We've changed manager, and a new manager has come in with a new philosophy, and the team wants to attack and play football. But again, you look at it, I'm sure a lot of things have been done right, but again, a lot of things could have been done better. When you play at national level, you definitely you have to win. You have to win, because you know that, of course, within an interval or monthly, these rankings will come, and if results are not going your way, you are not being involved in football matches, definitely your ranking will go down. And you look at us as a nation, as a footballing nation over the years, qualification alone is very difficult for us. Much more talking about going for a preliminary again. Where does that leave us? That leaves us, in a hole, in a mire when it comes to qualification. Because you've said it, you have to go and play a home and away tie. And we know for the Gambia we have to play an away tie. Before we even get seeded and in the lowest rank fourth, is it the 4th seed?
The 4th seed in each group.
In each group. So,
in each group
where you are going to be drawn with the African giants, and there you feel that you have little or no chance. So it's about time that we start winning games, we start collecting points, and start playing the brand of football that we want to play. But again, you look at the two games. To me, although different circumstances, but they are just difficult to digest. The 3-3, wow, up to date, you watch it, you just cannot understand. 0-0 at halftime, you cannot understand. To me, of course, they will tell you if these were kids that were playing football at that level, and this happens, the next morning you take them to the training ground as a grassroots coach. All you do is you go and sit down and ask them to run and run for the whole session before they go home. Nobody's going to kick the ball. This is what we see them do in amateur football. It's unacceptable. To be honest, it's unacceptable. All what was needed was the 3 points. You are 2-0 up. You squandered it 2-2 within the twinkle of an eye. Then just when we thought that we're going to win it, when we scored an almighty cracker, to me that goal was just too good to earn you a point. It can win any match. Forget about who scored it. That goal was just a world-class goal. And right at the death, I think it was seconds to go.
Yes, 36 seconds.
36 seconds to go, and another ball launched inside our penalty area, and we could not deal with it. And then there it was, and everybody was just disappointed. The manager, the players, everybody was shocked. And to me, that was a defeat. And that's not what you need as a nation that wants to qualify in major tournaments. You winning 2-0, you squander it too well, you have another opportunity to redeem yourself, and then right at that you let yourself down. And against Ivory Coast or against Cote d'Ivoire, we all knew it was a case of trying to react again to the disappointing 3-3. But when you play against African champions at home, it's a tall order, for any country, without a doubt. And looking at our ranking, looking at the group of players we have, and putting into consideration the venue, and we're just from at the back of a disappointing 3-3 draw. You go to Ivory Coast. It was always going to be difficult. But to me, it looks like, of course, it looked like the mentality that we went to with at Cote d'Ivoire was definitely different. You could see a lot of positive things. The players were free, and this is typical of Gambia, Gajaga. Most of the time when there is something to lose, it's always difficult. I don't know, possibly the mindset or the fear of if we lose it, the worst might happen. But again, our team looks like it's always, there is that freedom when less is expected, and we that's the time we go out freely with a lot of freedom and express ourselves in terms of possession, in terms of creating chances, and in terms of scoring goals. To me, fantastic in Cote d'Ivoire, even though for the performance, and our coaches will tell you, I was satisfied with the performance, but again, I was disappointed with the result. Look, football is results, and you have to get them, especially, when it comes to qualifications. To me, that day was another frustrating night. It was chance upon chance upon chance upon chance. They came begging, especially in the second half. We could have pawned them on the guillotine, Cote d'Ivoire, and what a story that would have been. And all of a sudden, that 3-3 draw against Kenya would have been in the dustbin, because we would have said, okay, we went to the home of the champions and we pawned them on the guillotine and beat them. Forget about going down 1-0. But again, in the second half,
and even the way we conceded that goal, it's just out of nothing.
That is
Sebastian Haller literally didn't do anything to get that goal.
That is another story.
It was a gift.
That's another story. To me, you look at before we talk about the defending department, you look at the striking department. Chances were there. They were just there for the taking, and nobody took responsibility. In a match, when the goalkeeper becomes the man of the match, there are two things involved. It's either it was a very, very good day for the goalkeeper, in which he was just destined not to be beaten, or it's a day that the strikers just did not do enough. These are the two things involved. And to me, I think our strikers did not do enough. There was a ball on a silver plate for a runner, for an advancing runner to tap home, and somehow they scrambled it and the goalkeeper just got the easiest job. Again, the manner in which we conceded, like you have just described it, to me, that has been typical of Gambia, over the years. You look at the higher percentage of the goals that we concede is always one ball over the top, and the goalkeeper stays on his line. He doesn't come out to have a punch or to clear it or to scramble, thinking that the defenders, Omar Colley and co, will jump and head or give the defender something to think about. But this doesn't happen. Quite often this doesn't happen. And to me, it was just a gift on a plate in the air for Hala to head home. Two defenders, in between two defenders, in the 6 yard. You're never going to be forgiven to concede a goal like that. Goalkeeper is there deep in the 6 yard, two centre backs in the 6 yard, and a striker in between them. That's where he won it. And you look at Adingra, trying to beat the half-back, the full-back was it. I think that was so cheap again. It was so easy.
Left alone, he did it easily, and nobody even pushed him.
Nobody.
Oh my God.
At will, he had all the time in the world, all the space in the world to do what he wanted to do, and he did it. And again, had all the time in the world to look up and see where Haller was and just, crossed it in. To me, I think the defense and the goalkeeper, they have questions to answer. The more you look at that goal, the more you watch the replay, the more painful it becomes, because you dare not.
That's going to bring me to my next question
just can't concede.
Concerning attitude of players. Yes, we all know these players are patriotic. If you want to play for your national team, you're being called upon to come and represent the Gambia. Obviously, you could have said no, but if you leave your club to come and play for the Gambia, it's because you love your country. Nobody can question that. But if you come, when it comes to giving your best, sometimes you tend to question the attitude of the players, their work rate. That's where I have a problem with. Football has advanced to a level. All the strikers, when the team loses possession, becomes defenders. They help the team in defense. But all you see most of the time is majority of our forward players would stand still and just be looking at the defenders for them to do the defending, when it should be a unit. Football is a team sport. It's not an individual sport.
Yeah, you've just said it all. It's a team thing. That's why it's team together. Everyone achieves more. It's about you do the next thing. You pick the project, you go on, I pick it from where you stop, and we go on. And when it is time to defend, we defend as a unit. If we want to attack, we attack as a unit. But again, you look at most of the time, we make it so easy on opponents, for opponents to break us down, especially when we surge forward and we've been dispossessed in the opposition half. It's always difficult for us to regroup. So I think it's about, dying for your country. Yes, everybody will tell you, okay, look, you cannot sit out there and say we're not dying for our country, because the invitation, flying alone, to come in alone, those things. But football goes beyond that, and you see most of the time that there are a group of players, a lot of them who could have been called to come in and play their part and fight for the country, and you're called to come in. I'm not saying the players are not, they're not fighting for the country, but again, you look at the goals that we concede, and how cheaply we lose possession, especially when we attack, and when it is time to recover, it's always difficult. We are always outnumbered. I think that alone, that should ring a bell to each and every player that, look, in as much as we want to score goals, it's also important that we defend as a unit, because the thing about football is, one thing's for sure is that if you don't concede, you don't lose the game. But again, if you keep on attacking, you don't score, at the other end, you're going to concede. And when you concede, it boils down to more or less, nothing was done. So I think the players, in some moments, they need to step up, and they need to understand that, look, as a nation, we're never going to be forgiven for conceding goals like this. Cheap goals sent inside the penalty area, and you begin to wonder who is taking responsibility. It's about responsibility. It's about giving the right attitude at the right time, at the right moment. When you have to defend well. When we lose the ball, you have to come and defend as a team. Look, we've seen Portugal play, and Ronaldo will come back, track, help the defenders. You and I watch the European leagues. We see players who, the manager will never even ask to go and defend. They'll still come back and defend, because their instinct tells them that, look, I cannot do it alone. In as much as they are helping me to attack, I have to help them to defend. And this is what we need to understand. Unless we defend as a team and attack as a team, these things will always happen. We will create chances, we will not score, and opponents will create chances and they will score. As easy as that.
Still on the national team, let's talk about the big story this week that's been running. Is about Noah Sonko Sundberg, a Gambian international defender who's been consistently performing for the national team, has announced that he's no longer going to be part of the setup of the Scorpions unless certain things improve. He's talked about previous experiences of bonuses, the issue of late travels, the issue of the near air disaster we had in the leading up to the AFCON in Cote d'Ivoire last year, and so many things that he cited. How did you receive the story?
Shocking. Every player want to say farewell in a different manner. Not in the manner in which this happens. We have talked about the players and attitude, and again, you look at that. The life of every player in the national team will want to be, okay, there has to be that before I retire. There has to be that, testimonial, that tribute, that emotional whatsoever because of what I have done. I want to win trophies. I want to qualify in major tournaments. I want to be the highest capped or the most capped player, and then announce my retirement, or announce my step down, in a befitting way. But again, you look at how this has happened. I think this has been haunting us for a long time. Putting into consideration all what has transpired, in the past. In as much as you talk about the players and the right attitude, again, football is not about you pick 11, I pick 11, and they go into the field and give you results. There are so many things on and off the pitch, and they need to be taken care of. We have seen this footballers nowadays, and the care that is required is just huge. So in as much as you want to win, you want to give your best, and a country cry for results in games. I think it's also important that we look at things in the right way. To me, that was just unacceptable when players have to come to the country and to play for us and give us results, and you know, all of a sudden they expose some of these things. To me, I think, yes, kudos to him to come out and boldly say what is affecting him and the team. To me, you know, maybe there are a lot of players out there who have a similar story, but again, they're waiting for the right platform to express themselves. He thinks that this is the right time for him to come in and express himself. And he is not saying he's going for good. You know, he's saying unless conditions improve, that's a condition now. Unless conditions improve, I'm not going to play again, because you know, he talked about match bonuses. You know, there's nothing for free, to be honest with you. He talked about match bonuses, but again, away from that, there are things that are more important than football, and life is one of them. You know, the disaster. It would have been just, you know, it would have been just one of the saddest stories of our lives. You know, we saw what happened in the Cote d'Ivoire journey. So, and again, you look at it, what he had to say. You know, it was a difficult decision for him, very tough. He loves the Gambia. You know, he's not taking anything away from us. Again, you know, his family has been involved in it. That they think it's time for him to say no to the call until... And it's
always very difficult when it comes to things like that.
Yeah, when the family talks.
Well, unfortunately, time is never enough, and that's it for Qsports. And until we come your way next week, at the same time, keep on sporting and have a lovely day. Bye. Thank you.